Hey everyone, I've been sharing a little bit about my personal life through this playlist I call my pictures, my life, or however I put that. Anyways, I was just uh, kind of making two separate playlists. One is the Jody Vision. I'm also sharing my personal timeline there, but more of the weirder stuff about my life. And when I share my life, my pictures, it's just more basically how my life went based on some of the pictures I've had. And up until now, I'm getting up to the year 2007, I've had some pictures, and now I'm running out of pictures. So I think this is the last set of pictures I have before I left Denver. And then when I came to Montana, we did another stack of pictures. For out of 15 years, it's really not much, but hey. Anyways, let's see. Where I left off was in 2007, I think. I can put my finger on 2006 into 2007. Anyways, I was living with this guy named David. I'd known him for a while, and I always thought I trusted him. I think I brought this up in my last video when I was talking about, just my life. Just kind of keeping balance on rolling rocks, because it just seemed like I was moving from one place to the next. And so I ended up living with David before I ended up moving with Janet McMahon. Now, I think living with Janet McMahon gave me some stability. She had a 2-bedroom apartment and needed a roommate. And I'm thinking 2007 to 2009 almost lasted 2 years of working there. I was working with her at this parking garage job. So I must have been working there for a while already. So I worked for a place called Central Parking. I started out just like taking tickets at the baseball stadium, and then they gave me a job, as a cashier. So I had to work 2 different part-time jobs just to get enough hours, and then they gave me the opportunity to be a full-time person if I took the maintenance position. So I was like working at the garage over by the art museum, over by the library, the big crazy crooked building, and that's where I made friends with Janet. So I was probably a cashier when we first started talking, so I would be there and work to closing on the nights that I worked. And then but we just got along really good. Janet was like a fat girl that was in the security guard position. I'm thinking I must have been, 30, like my early 30s, 2007, so 31, 32 during that time frame. And she was 10 years older than me, like in her 40s, just a little bit younger than I am now. And her best friend lived next door to her, and then she was probably another almost 10 years older than Janet. So maybe each of us fit a different decade, and so both fat girls working for the security business. So I made friends with a professional tattletale, but she was kind of open-minded, and we could talk about some weird stuff. And yeah, we got along really great, and that's why I ended up living at Janet's house. So anyways, with moving into Janet's, I was coming out of living with David, and that's where I met Kim. So it was kind of cool that I made a valuable connection with Kim, and she and I have stayed in touch over the years. And we also made friends over being able to talk about, far out stuff. So when we went back to Denver back in 2011, I think I took Rosie down and we all crashed at her house. I'll talk about that a little later on too. So that was a good time going down then. But anyways, 2007, I just wanted to reflect on what happened that year. I think 2007 stands alone just for a few reasons. First of all, I think moving in with Janet. So me and her buddy next door, and boy, it's funny that I just can't think of the lady's name at the moment, but it seemed like we were pretty good buddies, and we would plan little road trips, like, we'd all get in her car, and we'd drive someplace. Like, we tried to go up to the top of Pikes Peak down in, Colorado Springs. So we got down there too late in the afternoon, though, because, they took forever getting ready, and took forever getting there, and too much dicking around. But we got halfway up that thing, so I've been halfway up Pikes Peak. And then, what's the other one? Anyways, we've gone up to Estes Park. So let's see, I was trying to think of that one place up by Idaho Springs, Mount Evans. Mount Evans is like one of the highest places you could just drive right up and pull into a parking lot, right? So we drove up to Mount Evans in the middle of the night and waited till sunrise, and man, I could barely stay awake, but it was just like being able to peek out the window and seeing the mountaintops first thing in the morning. Anyway, so we made a trip to Estes Park, and we all got a little room together, and that's where I think I have a few pictures here to share. Now, got kind of dim lighting there, but I think just right here, they just got some pictures of me standing outside and some of the landscape right there. Other than that, I think I had some pictures here of my dad's cat. TC is the orange cat, and it looks like the black cat's one that we had since I lived down in Key West. And that's the only picture I got with my grandma since 2000. So not very many pictures of me from living in Denver. But then the next exciting thing that happened was when Frontline Assembly came in 2007. A friend of mine with a camera showed up at the club, and I said, please take our picture. So that's me and their drummer, Adrian White, who was with them at the time. And then that's Bill Lieb, the singer. Everybody wants to meet him because he's a hot, sexy rock star. And I'm really lucky I got these nice pictures to remember him by. See, and that's just a cutout from a magazine a long time ago. So it goes to show it's one of me and my dad's favorite bands. So I kind of think, in a roundabout way, it's like I was born into my family. My dad's into this music, so it's like I was kind of born into this music family. And, I've talked about Bill Lieb a lot in my Vision, the Jody Vision side, and because he's just the one that I connected with the most out of this music. It's kind of like I got a music family and I got a Shaolin family. So this isn't all of my martial arts family, but these guys are at the core. This is where I get one of my 2 black belts. So I don't have any Taekwondo pictures, and I don't really feel a strong connection with the Taekwondo group, but I do feel a strong connection with these guys. I feel like it's kind of like my aunt and uncle. They're like David and Sharon Sword. Those guys are like aunts and uncles. A lot of the people in class that trained with me remember me. And then Grandmaster Tay, I got to know him and ended up going to his house back in back in 97, so I connected with Master Tay, and he took me home, and he wanted to date me. So it's kind of strange. I didn't expect him to take an interest in me like that, but I was just like, whatever. So I kind of had a falling out with Master Tay. I got really mad at him. It just seemed like at some point I just felt like, maybe like I didn't trust him anymore. Like it seemed like me and him hit it off because we could talk about psychic awareness and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I was looking for when I came to Shaolin. So in my martial arts life, for example, I started out with Taekwondo. It was like what was available to me. So it's kind of good that I did. It did give me some good foundation for my training. But at the same time, it really helps me to understand what's out there. This is what people are training. This is what's going on. So I'm aware of what's going on. And then I discovered the Kempo Wushu system, which is almost like going to underground music, a little bit more of a street fighting style. So because of the fact that I was training with somebody that trained me like right there inside his house and right out in the backyard, right on the bricks, so they had like, the walkway was just bricks and whatever else was laying on those bricks. And let's see, so he kind of helped take me deeper. So when I discovered Shaolin, which is that group right there, I felt like I really hit the jackpot. It's just like, so I show like Frontline Assembly, Bill Lieb. It's kind of cool that I have these pictures. Somebody took these pictures and I sent them to my dad. I was just emailing those pictures just to share about it. Like I really didn't expect him to print them off, and he took that one and framed it. He just thought it was I think he was just really happy for me because I talked about it so much, and so he framed that and sent it to me as a gift. So I appreciate that. And so it's kind of interesting how I just have this this wall of my house. Like I've been in transition like since Rosie died. My good friend Rosie died, as I'd mentioned, about a year and a half or so ago. So she died in September, so this September she'll have been gone 2 years, and I'm still kind of been in limbo here trying to pack out and move, but I've kept my videos and my music and my pictures and everything around just to like, I don't really want to put that in storage unless I have to. So it's really the only thing that I have around here that makes me feel at home, and so it's kind of cool how these just happen to be some of the things. I think I have other big pictures somewhere in frames and stuff. I must have dragged those out to storage already, but it's like, basically what I see here is it's like I have a music family, I have a martial arts family, and in each case, I felt like there was some reconciliation there. I had seen Master Tape previously, but to come to that testing in 2007, I think I got my black belt in like maybe the end of '97, like the end of that year, so '97 and then '98. So it took almost another 10 years because I had dropped out. I was really mad at Master Tay, and I just couldn't be in class for a while because I was too angry about things. And so, anyways, I felt like it was really nice being back in class for a while, getting my second black finally. It took me 10 years to be able to get ready for that with all the time that I quit. And then, with Frontline Assembly, also like if you watch some of my videos, 98, 99, I had a bad experience and I didn't understand exactly what was going on at the time, but I was really angry about it. Plus, I'd also been going to Visionary State, so I think I was trying to go onto the internet and communicate with those guys, but I couldn't really get directly in touch with the band. It seemed more like a fan site, so all I really did was end up butting heads with a lot of people, and then I lost my temper, of course, and so they're going to see Frontline Assembly, and it's probably the best time we had going to see this band. So my friend Chris Smith brought his big white van, and he doesn't even remember it. I asked him the other day if he remembered going, and it's kind of funny because when I went to this show, it seemed like I dreamed about it. So like after the fact, I realized I dreamed about Chris in his van. I dreamed about some guy in the mosh pit, and a couple other things that were really interesting there. So I'm really happy I have those pictures because it seemed like 2000 was a big year. I seemed like I was on Rolling Rocks for quite a while, and then going over Janet, it gave me some sense of what you call stability. I felt like I had a safe place to come home to, somebody that watched my back, and then I got back into class. So after I tested in 2007, of course, I kept coming to class and trying to help out as an assistant instructor. So I was kind of getting geared more and more towards possibly teaching. So instead of going to college, I went to martial arts training. I thought maybe I could be doing this for a living. And so in all honesty, I can't really make a commitment to it as an instructor and as a business owner. It's just simply something where I'm glad I took it as long as I did. And, if I get a chance, and it fits into my life, I definitely want to go back and pay more time in the Shaolin class. So there's definitely more I hope to get from it for sure, because it's all sinking in, some of the things I've learned there. So Shaolin is a little bit like underground music and things that are just, specialty things. It's something where it's really difficult to first of all, find the real thing, and to find a group that has this much information. So this is really cool that I found this school and stuff. And then in my music life, I feel like it's very similar, that it's very difficult to find what you call the real thing, like industrial music, to be able to know what real industrial music is, or find all the bands that are authentic in their way too. So it feels like those are two things that I've been straddling all my life, is music and martial arts. But I feel like I paid more time into martial arts because it was probably easier, it's just easier to what you call find a class like this and join it. And the benefit of that is you do meet a lot of interesting people, so you get your training and all your knowledge and everything that comes with the training. But I've met some people like, for example, my friend Tio. I met him in class, and the way we bonded was because when I get him as a partner in Tai Chi, you can just, you can tell some people are just cool as fuck, And I could tell Tio was just cool as fuck, so that's how we bonded. Like, I started to talk to him and try to hang out with him more, Now, I usually look for the other people that smoke pot, and he's not one of those, so. But, a lot of people that I've made friends with through the Kung Fu school, usually somebody that they can hang out with me for that reason, because they accept that I smoke pot because they do it with me. Or vice versa. I think I really can't think of very many people that I brought to Shaolin, so I did bring Chris Smith to Shaolin, and he did get his black belt. And then, before it was all said and done, I think I take away There's another guy named Chris Buffum. I stayed friends with him since I met him in class, but he was kind of part of our little circle. Like me, Scott, and Jason used to hang out because we all lived close together. So like, yeah, 2007, and then let's see, I'm trying to think all about that year. Because in 2008 and 2009, I don't really have much for pictures. I'm just thinking, you know, in 2007 into 2008, though, I was working with Janet at that Central Parking Garage, and there wasn't really much to do, you know. I mean, I think I did what I needed to do, but that boss just seemed like he wanted to act proactive, like he's being a boss, and he just seemed to be this small-minded guy with a big ego, and like he was kind of cool to some point. Hal, he had a mustache, and so he's a mustache man. And it just seemed like he was always just bugging me about stuff like me wanting to go to the bathroom, or me wanting to step off and take a break, or go find something to eat, or just stupid petty shit, just trying to, like, you know, couldn't really find anything wrong, so he had to pester me about stupid shit. And then let me see what came up was I was trying to get my taxes done, and AARP lets people do their taxes, so like, I don't know, I just fucked that shit up, so I try to get somebody who can do it right for me, and I ran into some problems, and I was running around town trying to get my paperwork, and then he started getting accusatory and all this stuff, and so I ended up quitting the job just because we ended up arguing over it, and I just like couldn't take his shit anymore. And so when I was working at the garage, that's when I wrote a song that goes, taking her poop on company time, taking the poop on the boss's dime. So if I can remember that song, I'll have to play it on the piano. But yeah, like acting like me needing to go to the bathroom was a big problem. And so every morning, you know, like I would come in and work for a while, then I'd go next door and I would use their bathroom because there was like a little coffee shop. Get like a little something to eat and some coffee and eat that, and then work a while, and then try to go to my lunch break. And he started getting nosy because he didn't like me going over there every morning, or, you know, trying to slip off, and, you know, I'd take a little break and get a coffee and a snack and use the bathroom. And, you know, none of it was like tying anything up, but, you know, I ended up quitting that job and going to Applebee's, and Applebee's brought me on, like, they're going to make me a server if I do a few other positions first, so I get trained through all their positions, and I know the business really good by the time they promote me. So they didn't, you know, they kind of dragged me along for like about a year or so, and then I ended up losing my job just because it's one of those places where they show favoritism to people that are going to college, you know, and so I just feel like, you know, I'm just this fat old chick that doesn't, you know, have a future. And I've worked in other places like that in Denver, and, you know, like, so it's not the only place that's like that. And so when I go to places where they show favoritism to college kids, that's usually someplace I can't stand, you know. Just recently I had a job at a place called Sweet Peaks, and it was similarly, it was a place where she just wanted to have college kids, like, because they think, you know, these are people that are doing something with their life, so they're going to get this cool job, and they get the opportunity, and so they're kind of, what do you call, bogarting that job, or you know, basically, you know, making that job just for college kids. And that's how I felt about that Applebee's. They just want these young college kids. They didn't like older women in there, and then they got a new manager. I think that was the thing, is like, because of the new manager, it definitely shortened my opportunity there. The new manager just didn't like me, and if it was up to him, he probably wouldn't have hired me, right? So anyway, so during that time living with Janet, you know, I think I was kind of doing good because, you know, I got back into Kung Fu class and got my second black, and then I was working at Applebee's, you know, and so I don't really have any pictures after that. It's like, you know, I kept training, and then so Bill Lee has another band called Delirium. It's kind of cool. They came back the next year, saw them, and so that is the last couple times I could say I've talked to them in person. And then in 2009, that's when I left. So before I'm gonna have to make a separate video to talk about 2009, because that's when I went to Arizona with Elias and met Uncle David, and then made a trip up to the reservation to do Vision Quest. So 2007, 2008, living with Janet. I think I stayed pretty steady in Kung Fu. I stayed pretty steady, just working and just trying to, seemed like just staying above broke, really, because if you think about it, I didn't do a whole lot to save my money. I always had enough to pay my rent. I always had enough to pay my class fees, somehow I always had enough money to smoke pot all the time, just I had enough money to go to concerts. I didn't have enough money to buy a vehicle and keep it on the road, though, so I did have a moped. So when I was working at that garage, I bought this, this really cheap piece of shit. It was like just under $1,000, and I thought, oh, how cool, that's under $1,000. So I used my credit card, and I bought this little moped, and then you can lock it so it stays, like you can park it, but I didn't have it locked to anything. I didn't think I needed to lock it to anything. I didn't think I was that much in danger. And eventually somebody came and lifted it, and sad thing is I think I even heard it, and I just thought it was the sound of somebody shutting a car door, but I just had a really weird feeling that must have been somebody stealing my moped. And I was so tired, because I was just laying down to go to sleep, and it's just the most horrible feeling when you realize you knew something was wrong, but you didn't look. I knew something was wrong and I didn't look. And the next day I went out to go to work and my bike was gone. So a friend of mine had another moped and they sold it to me for a good price. This one was a more powerful one too, so it was kind of fun. I enjoyed it while it lasted, but I think what I did wrong is I let my friend Janet ride it with me. So let's see, I think I let Janet on that moped a couple times, and I think we ruined it because it wasn't running right, and I took it into some repair shop, and the motor was cracked, so he paid me $200 to keep it for parts. So, oh my god, I don't think I had that for very long, but it was pretty cool, and maybe it's a blessing in disguise because, I was really pushing it with that cheap piece of shit moped. I've tried taking it out on the road, and there's a couple times that I slipped and fell. I was coming to a stop, but I kind of slipped and fell on it. So I was really pushing myself because I hate taking the bus. It takes 10 or 15 minutes to get somewhere on the moped, but the bus takes I don't know, an hour practically. You have to take one up here, sit here, wait, and get the next one, or then coming back from Shaolin, you got to go down 38 and then catch the one at Wadsworth. And right when you're getting off the 38, you see the Wadsworth bus coming. And if you're lucky, you can run really fast and catch it. Otherwise, if that bus goes, then you're stuck a whole another half an hour or so. And so, I was always trying to bum a ride. So when I come out of class, I'd be like, hey, anyone going down Wadsworth by any chance? Please, or Kovacs, somebody can drop me off. I'll just catch at least one bus, not both of them. So I would get people to at least take me up to the bus stop or home if I could. So I've always kind of done that. When I was in Taekwondo, my dad hated coming to get me from class, so I used to bum a ride. And so, when I was going to Shaolin, yes, I used to try to bum a ride all the time because it's so faster than the bus. But I just figured, hey, if you're going that way and you like me, then we can ride together and have a good conversation, So I used to try to get Tio to give me a ride because I think I was working with my friend Kim for a while there, and she had a job cleaning salons, so I could come down and for $25 just put in a couple hours of work and help them get the cleaning done. I'd have Tio give me a ride down there because he was going that way, but he likes to take the highway, so I was asking him to go off the road. But I just thought, two things, if he likes talking to me and him could talk and stuff like that, for example. But yeah, that's sometimes how I make friends with people, by bumming a ride. I think that helps a little bit, and trying to I don't know, going to Shaolin, it's just something I really didn't get into in my other videos, but this is probably last couple of years I lived in Denver. I did go back to Shaolin, and I was working on possibly gonna test again, and then I've never had a class to myself except one time. So one time before I packed up and went to a big fort, I had the whole school to myself, and it was only because no other instructors came into class. It was just, I was the only high-ranking student there who had some teaching experience. So it's kind of crazy that, Master Dave and Sharon were gone. I don't know if they even heard about it, but I got the whole class to myself, and I think, I just ran a pretty regular class. It was kind of neat, you know. So it was something I was geared towards at the time, but you know, I was in limbo. I think I had a falling out with my friend Janet, so I'm kind of stretching to 2009, but I'm going to come back and talk about that more. So that's where, like, towards the end of that, being in Denver, I got invited to Big Fork in 2009. But anyways, let's see. So kind of what led up to that was losing my job with Applebee's in 2009, you know. So yeah, so 2007 to 2008, I think, living with Janet. I went from Central Parking to Applebee's. Crapplebee's. Oh my god. And so let me say I put in like at least a year there at Applebee's, and then I think that spring of 2009, that's when I'm going to come back and talk about, let's say, when I quit working at Applebee's. And like, so here's the thing, you know, like, since I quit the parking garage job and started working at Applebee's, you know, like, you know, Janet would get together with that old boss and they'd talk about me, you know, when she was frustrated, she'd go to him. And so it seemed like between the boss and then she had her best friend, okay, Gail. Her best friend was Gail. Now, I knew it when I came into the relationship that Gail was kind of like her mommy, you know, like she's always talking down to her like she's her kid. And I'm thinking at some point Gail's not going to like having me around because they got their little power structure. And sure enough, you know, when Janet was sick of me, she'd be talking to Gail. Gail started turning on me, and Gail's like, you need to throw her out, you know. So Janet wanted to throw me out, and so that's really sad because she always said, Jody, you're always safe here. I'm like having a sister. I thought she was someone I could trust. But I'll get into that when I come back about what made Janet turn on me mostly. But, you know, having that dynamic with the ex-boss and her best friend, then in that 2009, that's when it all comes crumbling down. At any rate, yeah, other than getting my moped stolen, living with Janet, we lived in Lakewood, so we're just west of Denver. So we would go, you know, you go West Colfax, I catch the 16 and ride it up, and we get off just before Wadsworth. So when I would go to Walmart, I just had to walk across the street, go across Colfax, and I had a couple places I could eat, like Panda Express, and what's that Mexican place I used to go to. So I ate out a lot, you know. I really, you know, didn't make food at home very much, so I knew all the places to get food. Oh yeah, and that's one thing I should say is when I was living with Janet and her friend Gail next door, that's one thing we love to do is we what you call go to the Golden Corral and all those type of buffets. Their little nickname for Golden Corral, we would call it hog sloppers, because you know we'd go in there and eat until it hurts, you know. So that's what we do is we plan little trips to go and eat. And oh yeah, we would go to the park. So yeah, with Janet and Gail, we'd go to the park a little bit. And I remember there was one park we'd go to. It was called Prospect Park. We would like to call it Goose Poop Park or something. It was just Poop Park. You know, there was so many geese. It was nothing but little turds everywhere. And you know, those geese were so thick, especially when it's cold out. Like you'd come and throw food down on the ground, and they'd be thick around me, and you could reach down and pet them and stuff. Some of the geese, you know, it just seems like the more geese there are, the more like brave they are. So I was just thinking about that the other day. There was all these Canada geese, and these are like typically, you know, like supposed to be wild birds, right? And there's this one, and I just picked it up and I like hugged it and I sat it down, and I expected it to like run off. It didn't. It just continued eating. Like we'd show up there in winter, and as soon as you open the car door, the birds are like practically climbing in, because you know they start living at the park, you know, because people feed them. But of course their resources are growing thin, so these birds would just like mob us. So I had so much fun going in there and just pick which one I want to check out. Caught a big white goose. I remember I was standing there with this huge white goose, and it was just so sweet and docile. But then another time I find this one little brown goose and caught it, and it was just like, ah! So different personalities. You never know what you're going to get. Geese are like people. Some of them you pick them up and they're like, all right, yeah. So I had a lot of fun. I think that's where I really started getting into geese, if I think about it, going with Janet and Gail to the park. And then when I moved up here to Kalispell and I found the goose park, I found the same pleasure in going to the goose park. And that's what made me want to have a goose, which I did eventually end up with one. And it's just something I really started wishing on, because I used to have ducks when I was a kid, right? I had Muscovy ducks. And now that I'm older, I've learned that Muscovy ducks are really something that are halfway between geese and ducks. It's kind of like a duck-sized goose, but it has that, you know how ducks do like this? So Muscovies are like a little goose that has a head bob to it, right? So, I don't know, I just get a kick out of these birds, and since I've been in limbo, I've been having to go pet-free, got no one to hug and no one to honk to. But yeah, it's kind of good to reflect on my life, like just thinking back to, it's a sad shame I didn't get a picture of Janet and Gail at all. All I have is a picture of these mountains, because we went up to Estes Park together, but I'll always remember them. I kind of think we could have stayed friends longer. I don't know, I mean, I get into that a little later, but I'm going to say maybe this 2007 to 2008 was a pretty stable time of my life, and then between that and moving to Rosie's, I think living with Rosie did create a sense of stability. Just, we always had a roof over our head. I mean, it seemed like we had a meager income at times when I was unemployed and we were going to the food bank on a regular basis, but just going from rolling rocks to being more stable. And so, I think between Janet's and Rosie's, I put all my stuff in storage and had to come back for it. So I had to kind of decide that I wanted to stay in Montana. But being at Janet's for a while did give me some peace. I should have been happier with that, right? So I like to think, the overall time I spent in Denver was super special. I don't know why I didn't stay in touch with those guys, Jen. I think we were kind of mad at each other when we parted ways, and so Janet tried to lock me out of the house, and then I had to tell her to let me in or I'm going to get the police involved, and it was just this type of thing. So I don't know, it just really sucks how things can end up like that, just when you thought you can trust somebody. So that's what really sucks about, really trying to find companionship. You need to have somebody in your life, and there's so many people I've tried, living with and stuff. And so Rosie, for example, was a good a good person that you can trust. And when I look back, like if I go back to Denver, for example, I would go back to stay with my friend Chris Smith, so he's somebody I know I could trust. Or if he didn't have a place, I would go to Lynn's house. Those guys, I could trust those guys. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting finding out how things work in the long run. So, people who can find companionship and find a trusting companion, whether it's your marriage partner or just a good friend, like an old friend like Rosie, doesn't matter. Sometimes, it's trial and error, and you might have to go through a number of relationships where you get burned. And that's where I felt like Janet gave me a good, safe place for a long time. At the end, she didn't really rip me up, but she just sort of it's like you have to move out or else, it's just she kind of gave me no choice to move out. And then, so when I come back to my next talk, I guess I'll talk about how 2009 went. So that's kind of where I had to wrap things up with Janet, do some adventuring, and then I went to Montana. So anyways, you guys, just another leg of the journey here. I think, I'm going to come back and share a little bit more about this part of my life before I go on to 2009. And then I'm really looking forward to those discussions, you guys. So hang in there and I'll talk to you soon.